A Dog of Flanders. Chapter 9. Tragedy at the Mill. One afternoon, as the two of them came back from Antwerp over the snow, which had become hard and smooth as marble on the fields, they found a little puppet, a tambourine player, painted scarlet and gold and about 6 inches, 15 centimetres high. Nello assumed that some Christmas shopper had probably dropped it. He tried to find out from a shopkeeper to whom it belonged so he could return it, but no one claimed it. Finally the shopkeeper said, "No one has come back for it. Perhaps they do not even live around here. It was paid for, so it is yours. Give it to someone as a Christmas gift." Nello was hesitant to keep it, but finally decided that perhaps God had brought it his way so he could give a present to Alois. She would be pleased with it. It was quite dark when he passed the mill house, but he knew where Alois' bedroom window was. Surely it would not hurt to stop just this once. Then she would know that he still wanted to be her friend. There was a little shed with a sloping roof attached to the house. He climbed up and tapped on her window. He could see a light inside, and in a moment Alois appeared. When she saw him, there was a puzzled look on her face, but she opened the window. Nello handed the little tambourine player to her and said, "Here is a puppet for you, Alois. I found it in the snow. I think maybe God put it there so I would have a present to give you for Christmas. Take it, and God bless you." Before she had time to thank him, he slid down from the shed roof and ran off through the darkness. It would have been wonderful to have stayed to talk with her, but he could not chance being caught by Mr. Cogges. Most of all, he did not want Alois to be in trouble with her father. However, as he ran, he glanced back to see Mr. Cogges looking out a lower floor window. That night there was a fire at the mill. The fire destroyed several buildings and much flax, although the mill itself and the house where the family lived were not damaged. The whole village was in an uproar and came out to see what was happening. The miller, Alois's father, had insurance so his buildings could be replaced, but he was furious and insisted that the fire was not an accident. Someone had set it. He had enemies because he was not always an easy businessman with whom to deal. Quite naturally, he assumed someone was getting even for some unhappy business deal. The next morning there was still much commotion at the mill. When Nello heard about the fire, he rushed to the mill to see if anyone had been hurt. Mr. Cogges saw him and grabbed him angrily. "So now you show up. You were here after dark and up to no good. I think you know more about this fire than anyone." Mr. Cogges knew that Nello had seen Alois last night, and now he accused him of starting the fire. Nello was shocked. At first he thought Mr. Cogges must be joking, but he quickly realised the man was serious. The miller's words stung Nello's ears. Yes, he had been there last night. He could not deny that, but he certainly had nothing to do with setting the fire. Why would he want to endanger Alois's life? Mr. Cogges did not press charges against Nello. Apparently, after thinking about his rash statements, he realised how foolish they had been. He had never been very upset and wanted someone to blame for the fire. However, he had accused Nello publicly and then continued his accusations to neighbours and townspeople who came by the mill. This was a cruel thing to do, because soon word was out that Nello had been snooping around the mill the night of the fire. Mr. Cogges even said Nello held a grudge against him because he would not let the boy come to the mill house any more. Deep inside, Mr. Cogges knew none of this was true. In fact, his conscience greatly bothered him over the way he had been treating Nello. He knew it was not right, but he did nothing to call back his angry words or try to make amends with Nello. Sadly, because the people of the village wanted to remain on good terms with the richest man in town, they not only listened but also began to shun Nello. Wherever Nello went, people gave him suspicious looks and turned their backs on him. They said nothing to him openly, but shopkeepers and neighbours avoided him. Worst of all, at some of the farms where Nello and Patrache went to pick up the daily milk supply, they received downcast glances and mumbled greetings. Where before they had been warmly received with broad smiles and kind words, they now got hardly a glance or short word in greeting. Not many people really believed what the miller had said, but they preferred to have him as their friend rather than Nello. They were ignorant people who had forgotten what their dusty Bibles said about how to treat the poor. They thought only of themselves and their comforts. Nello did not try to defend himself. Even if he had, they would not have listened to him, for their minds were made up. It was better to stay on the good side of the miller, they had decided. Why should they bother themselves about Nello, his ailing great-grandfather, and his poor aging dog of Flanders? There were a few people in the village who did not listen to the miller because they pitied grandfather, Nello, and Patrash. However, Nello did not want their pity. He wanted their respect. He wanted them to believe that he would never do something so wrong as setting a fire. One day, Aloise's mother went to her husband. She was nearly in tears. You used to be a kind, generous man, but now you have become a hard man. The way you are treating Nello is not right, and what you say about him to the townspeople is not true. You know as well as I do that he had nothing to do with the fire at the mill. You only contrived that to hurt him, because you do not want him to see or visit Aloise. How can you be so cruel? It is hurting our little Aloise and me as much as it is hurting Nello. Nello is a good, honest, hard-working young man. You should be glad your daughter picked such friends. Mr. Cogges was too stubborn and proud to admit that his wife was right. He did not like himself for the accusations he had made, but he did not have enough courage or humility to admit he was wrong. He had forgotten that pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall.